So, what shapes our understanding of the world? We often look to science for answers, and we rely on history to tell us what happened in the past. But what if some parts of history are hidden? And what if those hidden parts actually hold valuable clues about the origins of knowledge itself? This essay explores a secret history of religious studies. It's a story about the occult roots of this field. And honestly, it challenges us to reconsider how we think about knowledge and where it really comes from. This hidden history takes us back to the 19th and early 20th centuries. It was a time when the academic study of religion was just beginning to take shape. At the same time, there was a flourishing interest in the occult, the mystical, and the esoteric. These two worlds, often thought of as completely separate, were in fact deeply intertwined. Many of the pioneers of religious studies were drawn to esoteric ideas. Their work was shaped by these interests, even if they later tried to distance themselves from them. Now, to be clear, this essay isn't about promoting any particular esoteric tradition or belief system. It's really about uncovering a forgotten chapter in the history of ideas. It's about understanding how certain ways of thinking, once considered meaningful, were later pushed aside and excluded. And this process of exclusion has shaped not just the field of religious studies, but also our broader cultural understanding of what counts as legitimate knowledge. The story we're about to explore reveals the power of hidden histories. It reminds us that knowledge isn't static or neutral, it's always evolving. The late 19th century was, well, a time of great intellectual ferment. Science was advancing rapidly, and for many it seemed like the universe could be explained entirely through reason and observation. Yet, there was also this growing fascination with the mysteries of the human mind and the unseen realms of existence. People were drawn to ancient wisdom traditions and the spiritual practices of the East. During this period, spiritualism gained popularity with its attempts to contact the dead. Theosophy emerged too, blending Eastern philosophy with Western esotericism, and secret societies flourished, offering promises of hidden knowledge. Interestingly, this interest in the esoteric wasn't just limited to a fringe group, it actually permeated intellectual circles. It influenced scientists, artists, and scholars alike. And this fascination with the occult, it wasn't just about seeking thrills or dabbling in the mysterious. It was really driven by a sincere desire to expand the boundaries of knowledge, to explore realms that were beyond the reach of the scientific instruments of the time. Many people believed that ancient traditions held profound truths. They wanted to unlock those truths through careful study and personal experience. This was the intellectual climate in which the academic study of religion began to emerge. Scholars were especially drawn to the East, eager to explore its religions and philosophies. And what they found often challenged their existing frameworks. It forced them to confront the limits of reason and to reckon with the power of mystical experience. Many of the early pioneers of religious studies were, in fact, deeply influenced by esoteric ideas. Take Friedrich Max Müller, for example. He was a renowned scholar of Sanskrit and Eastern religions, and he's often considered one of the founders of comparative religion. While he later distanced himself from it, Müller was initially involved with Theosophy. He even engaged in debates with its leading figures. His work translating and interpreting Eastern texts was shaped by this engagement. Then there's John Woodroffe, a British judge stationed in India. He became fascinated by Tantra and wrote extensively on the subject under the pseudonym Arthur Avalon. Woodroffe's work was deeply informed by his own esoteric beliefs and practices. He saw Tantra as a profound system of spiritual realization, and he wanted to make it accessible to the West. Another example is Walter Evans Wentz, a scholar of Celtic folklore and Tibetan Buddhism. He was also influenced by Theosophy. His translation of a foundational text in Tibetan Buddhism was shaped by his esoteric worldview. Evans Wentz believed that this ancient text held keys to understanding consciousness and the afterlife. These are just a few of the many scholars whose work was influenced by esoteric ideas. And honestly, their stories challenge the traditional narrative that religious studies is purely objective and secular. They reveal the hidden connections between the study of religion and the occult. The Theosophical Society, which was founded in 1875 by Helena Blavatsky and Henry Steele Olcott, played a really significant role in shaping the early development of religious studies. Theosophy, meaning divine wisdom, is a system of thought that draws on both Eastern and Western esoteric traditions. It emphasizes the unity of all religions, and it suggests that there's a hidden spiritual reality we can access through intuition and mystical experience. The Theosophists were especially interested in the religions of the East. They believed that these traditions held ancient wisdom that had been lost to the West. So they translated and shared Eastern texts, organized lectures and conferences, and even set up journals and publishing houses. In many ways, the Theosophical Society acted as a bridge between East and West. It made Eastern religious ideas more accessible to a broader audience. The Society's influence on the study of Indology, the study of Indian language, literature, and culture, was particularly important. Many early Indologists were actually members of the Theosophical Society, and they were influenced by its esoteric worldview. Similarly, Theosophy played a role in the development of Tibetology, which is the study of Tibetan language, culture, and religion. While Theosophy's influence on religious studies declined in the mid-20th century, its early impact was undeniable. It helped to popularize Eastern religions in the West. It shaped how these traditions were studied and understood. And it offered a framework for integrating esoteric ideas into the academic study of religion. As the 20th century progressed, the study of religion began to distance itself from its occult roots. This change was really part of a broader trend in academia, one that emphasized specialization, professionalization, and, well, the growing dominance of scientific methods. In its quest for legitimacy, the field adopted a more empirical and analytical approach. It aimed to explain religious phenomena through social, historical, and psychological factors, rather than, mystical or esoteric frameworks. Esotericism, with its focus on personal experience, intuition, and hidden realities, came to be seen as unscientific and overly subjective. As a result, it was gradually pushed to the fringes of academic discourse. The line between religion and the occult, which had once been quite fluid, became increasingly rigid. The study of religion, once deeply intertwined with esotericism, now tried to define itself in opposition to it. This shift had a pretty profound impact on the field. It led to the exclusion of certain topics and methodologies, and, well, it marginalized the work of scholars who continued to engage with esoteric ideas. The history of religious studies was, in many ways, rewritten. Its occult roots were, for the most part, either erased or simply ignored. And importantly, this process of exclusion wasn't limited to religious studies alone. It actually reflected broader cultural changes in how knowledge was produced and validated. The rise of science as the dominant paradigm of knowledge led to the marginalization of other ways of knowing, things like mystical experience, intuition, and the study of hidden realities. The occult, which had once been a genuine source of fascination and scholarly inquiry, came to be viewed as nothing more than superstition or pseudoscience. Despite this process of exclusion, traces of the occult roots of religious studies remain. We find them in the footnotes of academic articles. We hear them in the whispers of scholars who know where to look. They exist in the personal correspondence and unpublished writings of early pioneers. These whispers tell a different story. They reveal a hidden history of the field, one in which esotericism played a vital role. Today, a growing number of scholars are beginning to re-examine this hidden history. They are revisiting the work of early pioneers. They are exploring the connections between esotericism and the study of religion. They are asking new questions about the nature of knowledge and the limits of rationality. This re-examination is not about romanticizing the occult or promoting any particular esoteric tradition. It's about acknowledging the complexity of intellectual history. It's about recognizing the contributions of marginalized voices and perspectives. It's about understanding how knowledge is shaped by what we choose to include and exclude from our narratives. The influence of esotericism on religious studies is not just a historical curiosity, it continues to shape the field in subtle but significant ways. The questions that scholars ask, the methods they use, the interpretations they offer, all of these can be influenced by unacknowledged esoteric assumptions. For example, the idea of a perennial philosophy, a single truth underlying all religions, is a concept with deep roots in esotericism. While many scholars today would reject this idea in its explicit form, it continues to influence how some approach the study of religion. Similarly, the emphasis on experience in the study of religion, while often framed in terms of phenomenology or anthropology, can also be seen as a legacy of esotericism. The idea that one can gain direct insight into religious phenomena through personal experience was central to many esoteric traditions. Today, scholars who study lived religion, religious experience, or the role of embodiment in religious practice are, in a sense, engaging with this legacy. Even the very act of studying religion, of trying to understand beliefs and practices that are not one's own, can be seen as an inherently esoteric endeavor. It involves stepping outside of one's own cultural framework and trying to see the world through the eyes of others. The occult roots of religious studies offer a powerful reminder that knowledge is not static or objective. It is shaped by historical forces, cultural biases, and personal beliefs. By acknowledging this, we can begin to develop a more nuanced and sophisticated understanding of how knowledge is produced. We can also begin to create a more inclusive and expansive vision of the field. A more honest and inclusive history of religious studies would acknowledge the contributions of esotericism. It would recognize the value of different ways of knowing, including intuition, experience, and the exploration of hidden realities. It would encourage dialogue and collaboration between scholars from diverse backgrounds and perspectives. This is not just an academic exercise, it has implications for how we understand ourselves, our place in the world, and the nature of reality itself. By confronting the hidden histories of our disciplines, we open ourselves to new possibilities of thought and understanding. The story of the occult roots of religious studies is just one thread in a much larger tapestry. It is a tapestry woven from science and spirituality, from reason and imagination, from the seen and the unseen. It is a tapestry that is still being woven today. By acknowledging the hidden histories of our disciplines, by embracing the complexity of knowledge, we contribute to the unfolding of this tapestry. We create space for new voices, new perspectives, and new ways of understanding the world and our place within it. As we delve deeper into the mysteries of consciousness, culture, and the cosmos, we may find that the boundaries between science and spirituality, between reason and imagination, are not as rigid as we once thought. The occult roots of religious studies remind us that the pursuit of knowledge is an ongoing journey, not a destination. It is a journey that requires us to be open to the unknown, to question our assumptions, and to embrace the mystery and wonder that lie at the heart of the human experience.